These two guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackie and Judd on SKOR North and SKORNorth.com.
We'll play hard for a little bit, then we'll make a few mistakes or someone will make a shot on us, and then we'll turn it over, and then, things kind of have snowballed on us. And that's why we've been down big in all these games. So, we got to be better. We got to play harder and for longer and more consistent. Like too many guys I think are out there just a little bit worried about, what's going on for them that night.
Wow.
Magic words.
This is what you get, Target Center, for booing Tom Thibodeau last night. Okay.
Switch.
Did you see Tom Thibodeau? He got booed. There wasn't that many fans there for tip-off, but
he was laughing.
He was laughing at he kind of
maniacally.
He was like the Elmo gif with the fire in the background as 16 people booed.
Great facial hair, though.
He's looking younger.
Better.
He's in better shape now.
He used to look like Danny DeVito's Penguin in Batman for a long time, and I'm glad.
You know what really helps him? The COVID pandemic time discarding of suits for coaches.
Yeah, he wasn't a suit guy. He's more of a tracksuit guy.
He's a sweatsuits guy. Yeah. Yep. Tracksuit.
Yep. So, there's
What'd you think?
A million different directions we could go here. I got one for you though, if you want.
Now on Mackie and Judd.
This chart makes it as clear as I can to you.
The pie chart of blame.
You want to blame somebody?
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
You want to do a pie chart? I got one for you.
Yeah, let's hear it.
All right. Pie chart of blame for, this isn't just for last night, in which I think they were down by 28 or 29 at one point in the first half. 27.
Yeah, they only trailed by 27. Don't worry about it.
Okay. They tried to make a run. They cut it to like 12 at one point late, but it was just one of the most dead-ass performances of the season so far. Their record's not a total train wreck. They're 5-6, but the product just looks dead. So I have 6 slices of pie here for the Timberwolves' just blasé start to the season.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to go a little out of order here. I'm going to start with a 20% chunk of pie. And if you guys, disagree, agree, chime in here. I'm maybe putting too much blame on certain guys, but this is how I feel about the start of the season. We're going to go 20% to just a general lack of chemistry. So I'm going to get this out of the way first. That as bad as it looks, they're working on putting 2 centers together, and then one of them has been out the last couple games. And so there is a certain number of games that needs to be played. Last year, this team started like 4-9, and then they figured it out. And the team from 18 years ago started, 9-8 or something, and then they went on a run. So the general lack of chemistry is just a thing that needs to play out over time. So let's put that off to the side, though. That's 20%.
Okay.
All right. Let's go 10% to Chris Finch.
Mm-hmm.
He seems very exasperated. He seems like he doesn't sleep much at night. He just seems kind of strung out. It'd be really interesting to sort of be a fly on the wall at practice and just see like how many of his words and tactics are landing with this team, because we keep talking about lack of effort and just like sloppy turnovers, things that are just really unacceptable if you're a professional basketball player. Why? If the coach is telling us the team isn't trying hard enough, which is basically what he's saying.
And selfish.
And they're selfish.
Yeah, he's saying guys are worried about their own stats.
Some of it is on the players, obviously, to just be better professionals and be less selfish. But ultimately, Chris Finch is the chef here. I am not putting Chris Finch on a hot seat. I just want to make that clear. I'll let Judd do that if he wants to on this episode. I think he's a good tactical coach. He has connected well with the team for the last couple years, but the front office, Tim Connolly and company said, here are the ingredients. And by the way, I think they checked with the chef and said, how would you feel if we got you these ingredients? Would you want this large 7-foot ingredient? And Chris Finch, after studying some tape and thinking, probably said, yes. I don't think it would have been, hey, chef, do you want this 7-foot ingredient to add to your other 7-foot ingredient? And he says, oh, I don't know. And they shoved it on him. I don't think that's how it played out. Mm-hmm. So he was in on it. Ultimately, it's his job to cook and get everyone to play hard and buy in and be less selfish. And through 11 games, 13% of the season, they're doing the opposite. So I got to give 10% to a guy that I like, Chris Finch.
He had some strong words, as we just heard, and he continued on after last night's game. What's weird is he had some strong words, but he was either doing his best to remain as calm as possible, or he just was. What sort of frightens me is I think he knows the problem, and that's almost scarier. He's not talking like he's like, well, we have to do this and do that. But I mean, when you're talking about guys trying to get their own, that usually screams of a chemistry change that's necessary, not a, I can make this work. So as you continue down this path, like we are talking, and I know it's 11 games, we are talking about a real problem here. The question is, can you solve it?
Well, let's get to one of the guys that I think spends time trying to get his own. Anthony Edwards gets 10% of the pie chart here. Okay. And I love Anthony Edwards. I don't want to like write him off or anything or cap his upside here. He actually is putting up overall very good offensive numbers. I think there's definitely more there, but 10% to his just overall lack of consistency and whatever else is going on with him. There's a weird vibe from him in the first 11 games.
Yes.
We are 11 games in too. If you just want to look at like the box score, he's already had out of 11 games 4 atrocious shooting performances. A 5 for 14 last night, a 4 for 17 on opening night. He had a 3 for 15 against the Spurs, and then another game against the Spurs in which he didn't score in the first half. So that's like 40% of the game so far in which he's just kind of shipwrecked the offense with bad shooting performances. And then I think he gets in the mode of, like last night, it felt to me watching like, all right, I haven't scored yet. We're 5 minutes into the second quarter or whatever. I'm just going to start taking pull-up three-pointers with a defender nearby.
Yeah.
I know that he can make pull-up threes sometimes, but there should almost be a rule. Anthony, don't take pull-up threes ever. Maybe there's like a heat check 1 or 2 here or there, but I want his threes to come within the context of the ball moving and it being open. And it drives me nuts when he just goes into, well, I haven't scored yet mode, so I'm gonna chuck a 3 here or go 1-on-1. It's like, come on, man.
So last night it was, and this drives me nuts. It was as if he was shooting because he thought he should shoot, but there were times in the first half where he swung the ball to D'Lo, and it's like, no, dude, you're open. Take the shot. That's why you're here.
Yeah.
In talking to the people that cover the team last night, because I thought like his box score last night to me, Phil, was empty as it could be. Like it's a Cousins fourth quarter. Look what I did. Comeback box score. He was a no-show as far as I was concerned last night. To your point, now in 11 games, that's about 4 games. The words that were used to me by a couple of the beat guys were, because I said, what's going on here? Like there's something weird here. And they said, yeah, you know what? We just didn't feel like showing up tonight. And like we're starting to see those games. I would actually give him more than 10% because I expect more. And my expectations for him are very high. What I saw last night, and you're right, it wasn't just last night, is inexcusable. Get your head in the game. It's not that much to ask.
And then he's making these dumb passes too in transition. He'll try and throw a bounce pass like between someone's legs. I don't even know. It's like, dude, there's a defender between you and the guy you're trying to pass to, and you're literally just throwing it 2 or 3 times right to the defender. So he also, I think, on the first or second offensive possession, just dribbled the ball off his foot.
Yeah, he didn't show up.
It's like, dude, as Austin Rivers said last night, it's time to effing lock in. And he said, it's not time to panic yet, but it is time to effing lock in.
Mm-hmm.
All right? 10%, I'm kind of jumping around here a little bit, but 10% goes to the team's complete inability to just make shots. So the Timberwolves are 26th in three-point make percentage so far this year. I do think that's going to come around. I mean, they do have some good shooters on this team that just historically, but they just aren't making shots right now at the level that they're used to. But last night, the Knicks hit 10 three-pointers in the first quarter, and the Wolves built a brick house for 2.5 hours. So some of this is a math game that they're just losing. I mean, they were a much better three-point shooting team last year. And if they're going to rank 26th in three-point make percent, they're shooting 32% from 3, you're going to lose games. It's a math problem. And sometimes if the math writes itself, it kind of buries some of the other stuff and makes some of the other stuff less glaring. If Anthony Edwards is turning the ball over a couple times, but you hit 4 extra 3-pointers and you're in a game. So we're 11 games in. They can't make a 3.
Your starters last night, 3-point shots, 7 for 23. Nobody made more than one other than D'Lo, who was 4 of 10.
And
Ant was 1 of 7 from 3.
We'll get to D'Lo in a second here. Not surprisingly, he is part of the pie chart.
I have a feeling he's getting a huge slice, but that's just me.
Let's get to the final 2 slices here. Starting with
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
20% to Karl-Anthony Towns.
Mm-hmm.
And I know some people are going to, whoa, what do you mean? Look at his numbers. Like last night, he was, 6 of 9. He dropped 20. He had a really highly efficient night offensively. You know, he's averaging definitely a career high in assists. I think he's averaging 5.5 assists per game. He grabbed some rebounds last night. And so, yes, Cat puts up a great box score, especially on offense. But I continue to so I was at the game. You were sitting media row. I was just sitting in some seats with friends nearby. And it's just interesting when you can sit kind of close to the action and you can just pick up on vibes.
Oh, God. Yeah.
And you can see it on TV, too. There's just something about Cat's personality and energy that sucks the life out of the team. Not all the time. I'm not saying they hate him or that he's a bad human or anything, but there's a whiny, soft tone that he sets culturally for this team.
Yep.
He brings losing energy. I'll go as far as to say that. He brings this losing, palms up, shoulders shrugged, kind of over-exaggerating, flailing. It's I see what Jimmy Butler was talking about.
He's the big pout. As soon as things go wrong, he pouts.
It's a weird beta energy that he gives off. And because he's been the longest tenured player and he makes a lot of money and he's a veteran at this point, it's just, he's not bumped from the pecking order. And I know that we just ripped Anthony Edwards here, but here's a quote that Edwards said after the game last night. I feel like we try to bring energy. We just play soft, man. Like every bump, we're flying all over the place.
Including me, he said.
He did say including myself.
And he's right about that.
And he says teams just coming in we're going to take their heart, and that's what's going on. But and I'm glad that he said including myself. He does look in the mirror a little bit. He doesn't correct the things very quickly but he's at least self-aware enough to say, I need to be better here. But when he says we just play soft, man, like every bump we're flying all over the place. Who's he talking about?
Yeah, he's talking about Cat.
He's not talking about Austin Rivers.
Nope.
He's not talking about Gobert. He's not talking about, I don't think he's talking about Jaden McDaniels.
Yep.
There's only one guy that fits that description. There's a couple other guys, too, that tend to do it. But there's one guy that's like the George Washington on the Mount Rushmore of, to go back to the quote, playing soft and flying all over the place on every bump.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings us to the last slice of pie here. This is 30%.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
To D'Angelo Russell. So before the season, and even I kind of bought in as a guy that I've never really been a huge D'Lo guy. Just kind of think he's an inefficient. He's like a very unathletic player too. Doesn't play above the rim or anything. He's just kind of has the old man game.
He is not a winning player.
Well, and you kind of gave him the benefit of the doubt this year, saying, all right. Your track record kind of is what it is, but it's a contract year. You got 2 great pick and roll centers here for different reasons. One's kind of a lob machine, and the other one can be a pick and pop guy. He's one of the great 3-point shooters in the league. So, wow, look at the canvas you have to paint with here with these 2 giant 7-footers with different skill sets. And you got this dynamic wing player entering his 3rd season in Anthony Edwards you can kind of play off of. So let's let D'Lo in a contract year paint the canvas and see what he can do, right? Through 11 games. Career lows in scoring, field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, and free throw percentage. His assists are way down this year. So it's like, here it is, man. This is all the inspiration you need. You got some great pieces to work with. And he's just not good. He's never been great. And now he's playing at kind of the bottom of his capabilities in the first 11 games. I do think he's going to go get hot at some point. He'll drop 30 in a game. That's not the question. Isn't what he can do at his peak. The question is, can he be consistently good and productive over the course of 82 games? And he's been atrocious through 11. They were like coaches were like consoling him. I almost felt kind of bad because he feels bad. He kind of senses it, but that's another guy that just, okay, I got to go get mine now. It's time for me to go shoot. And he did hit 4 out of 10 threes last night, but ultimately he went 4 of 12 from the field overall, and has just been awful. So 30% to D'Lo, 20% Towns, 10% can't make a shot, 10% Ant Edwards, 10% Chris Finch as the chef, and a 20% just sort of, let's be a little patient. There's a lack of chemistry here that just needs to be figured out.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
Oh, what do you guys think?
I think the lack of chemistry problem, though, is on and off the court, and I don't know that it can be fixed without changes now. Because the Gobert thing, yes, that is going to be, like, that's going to take time. One is, and this is where I think Finch needs to accept responsibility and really start to search for and find answers. And this goes back to the game that I went to, I think it was a few weeks back when they lost the first of back-to-back at Target Center against the Spurs. You can tell, Phil, and you saw it last night again, too. There are guys, and they're professionals, so it's on them, too, who don't know what they're supposed to do. Basketball box scores tend to lie, I think, as much or more than most box scores.
Absolutely.
And Karl-Anthony Towns had 7 assists last night, and like you said, his stats are pretty good, and it's a very Cousins fourth quarter thing again. But if you watched that game, which we both did, what did we see? We saw Cat throw at least 2, if not 3 passes that were easy baskets out of bounds. There was one towards the end of the first half where I forget who he was passing the ball to, but it was underneath. He never even made eye contact. He threw the ball like he thought he was magic.
Dude, they make some of the most lazy, dumb passes of any team in the NBA. Cat had a few last night. D'Lo does these like little, sometimes these little like pocket passes or like drop behind the back bounce passes to nobody, to opposing. There was one early in the game. Again, it was like one of the first 3 possessions. And they're coming down, and D'Lo's kind of top of the key, but shaded to the right. And it was probably, I think, Jaden McDaniels, because it was the starting lineup, was out in the left corner, wide open for 3, and he just sails a pass into the secondary media row. You know, it's like, dude, this is the 3rd possession of the game, and you're just whizzing a ball 5 feet over a 6'9" player's head,
right?
And then he does the my bad, and they're always like reassuring each other after bad things happen. Like, we got it, it's okay. Well, at some point, 11 games in, stop. It would be one thing if it was like a tactical, strategic problem, which it might be once you get the 2 centers back on the court. But they're making so many dumb plays, and they're just getting thrown off their game mentally. We can't even, we have to dig through all of that crap before we can get to, does this tactically work?
Right, that's exactly. Like the chemistry, the underlying, you need to work on things because it's going to take time. We're not even there. We're talking about guys, I mean, from Cat to D'Lo to Ant, who looked to me last night half the time like he didn't care, half the time like he's lost. We're talking about 3 of your 3 primary guys don't look like they know what their role is. D'Lo, to me, does know. He just doesn't care. Cat is such a beta that I think if anything goes wrong, he really doesn't know how to react to it. And Ant, I have no clue about, but the thing with Ant really bugs me because I need to see far more. And look, dude, we've been talking about you eventually being the face of this team. When Ant's going well, it's great. He's a great presence. So these disappearing acts, I don't have time for this crap.
I don't either, but I think I want to caution against something too. He is in his 3rd year. He's 21 years old. And because other things around him are sort of crumbling, and Cat isn't the guy that can. Cat is not Kevin Garnett. He's not going to come in here and just like, hey guys, it's almost to a fault sometimes. This is my bleeping team. We are not losing tonight. We are playing lockdown defense, and I'm going to scare the living bejesus out of every opponent that comes in the paint. Like, that was Kevin Garnett for 12 years here. He's not that. So Cat's not that guy. D'Lo is also kind of a beta. Again, I'm not saying that his teammates hate him or anything, but he's like, no one is here to just kind of grab the team by the scruff. And so because those things are absent, we're looking at Ant probably 2 or 3 years earlier than he's ready for at age 21 and say, all right, well, dude, someone's got to do it. Why can't you do it? And he can't do it because he's 21.
But he can't disappear.
I agree.
And he disappeared last night.
I agree.
We're
trying to expedite a process because other things around him are not doing what they need to do as well.
On the bonus scoop, Doogie said today flat out that the one guy who's trying to lead is Taurean Prince.
Yeah, Taurean Prince.
And
again,
God bless him for that.
Last night, there was a moment.
But
the Wolves were running an offensive possession, and I don't know what they were trying to run or whatever, but they got into a set once they crossed half court. And Taurean Prince went to throw a pass, but stopped and then threw it back to the top of the key. And he either looked over at Edwards or somebody else across the way, and he rolled his eyes in the middle of the possession because someone either didn't know where they were supposed to go or didn't cut. And these stories that we've heard about Taurean Prince leading film sessions behind the scenes at Wolves practice, he's the guy that gets up and will call out teammates behind the scenes. And it was putting that together with that possession, it was like this veteran sage player looking over at whoever he was trying to pass to, being like, what are you doing?
Right.
His eyes just said, what are you doing? And then there was a turnover 5 seconds later. And now he's back on defense, and here we go. And they knocked down a 3. So, but again, last year they started 4-9.
Yeah, but
they did turn it around.
They did, but let's be clear here. This feels, to your point about the feeling with that team last night, this doesn't feel like just a bad start. It feels off. And I don't think that that's us trying to pick up on something that's not there. I think that your point from last week might be right. I think the D-Lo might have to go.
We should do more of that on Reckless Speculation Thursday this week. Maybe this is the week where I bring you guys some trade ideas. But
okay,
part of the problem is he is not a coveted, valuable player. So the value in a trade is his contract expiring. It's a $31 million expiring. And so just to over-explain this for people that don't follow, NBA cap economics, if a team is up against the cap and they don't have contracts coming off the books this summer to clear space, they would look at D'Lo's contract as a valuable commodity because they could trade you. So Kyle Tighe brought this up on Flagrant Howls yesterday, for instance. So Terry Rozier, who's, I don't know that he's solving any major. He can score a little bit, but he's a high volume, high usage player. But he's on a multi-year lucrative contract. I think it's a $20-some million a year contract. I'd have to go look. But he brought up if they don't want to pay him for the next 3 or 4 years, if that's deemed a bad contract and they want to clear up some cap space for the summer, you would trade D'Lo's $31 million expiring, take back the Rozier contract, and then something else to make it work salary-wise. And then they would get salary cap relief with D'Lo coming out of the books. You might ask, well, why wouldn't the Timberwolves just ride it out with D'Lo's contract and his contract comes off the books? Because the Wolves, even without his contract, are basically pressed up against the cap. So letting D'Lo, with Gobert's contract on the books now, letting D'Lo walk this summer doesn't free up $30 million to go spend on another free agent. It just brings you further away from the luxury tax. So I do think they should look to trade him before the trade deadline, almost regardless, just to maybe get something of value. But it all depends on what bad contract from somebody else, what bad multi-year contract would you have to take back from another team? And would that piece hinder you from doing what you're trying to do, or would it help you in some way?
I just don't think the current collection as is going to get you even close to where you want to go, because I think we're seeing problems that go way beyond a slump.
You might be right. There's some things with...
Which I hate to tell you because...
Towns and D'Lo... Here's another thing. Last night, you're playing a mediocre team at home. And yes, Gobert's out. But if Karl-Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell are the players that they're sort of portrayed to be, right? These are star players that... D'Lo has this cavalcade of fans that just go around defending him on YouTube comment sections and the internet. If D'Lo was the player that you all said he was, D'Lo Crusaders, D'Lo Defenders, and if Cat is the player and the leader that you all think that he is, why are the Wolves down by 27 points in the first half at home against a mediocre Knicks team?
Mm-hmm. Because they worked their asses off. I mean, that's why.
Yeah, and because D'Lo and Cat are sort of fraudulent in terms of the money that they make and the numbers that they can put up and stuff. It's not. It's very hollow, and that's why Rudy Gobert is the opposite of hollow. He is exactly what he's advertised to do. He blocks shots, he grabs rebounds, he stifles possessions, and he puts up 15 points on 7 shots. Like, you know what you're getting with Gobert. That's why there almost has to be a changing of the guard at some point here but from a leadership standpoint, Gobert's not that guy. And Ant's not ready to be that guy. So they're kind of stuck in this mode of, all right, well, D'Lo and Towns are more of the vocal leaders, but they're kind of fraudulent in that way. But Gobert is more of a quiet lead with actions, and Ant's not ready.
Yeah.
And so that's why Taurean Prince and Austin Rivers are effectively the leaders of this team.
My last thought on Ant is this, and this is what concerns me, though, is he might not be set to be that guy yet, but I do not want him in a culture where it's acceptable to not be that guy ever, which is what Kat and D'Lo portray.
Yeah. No, you
got to show up.
I agree.
Come on. It's the Knicks. You're playing the bleeping Knicks.
No. Yeah, Tom Thibodeau must have had a nice giant
Murray's,
ribeye last night.
Manny's, maybe?
Big glass of whatever the hell he drinks. Probably red wine.
A lot of wine.
Yep.
Looking good. You're right. It's looking very good.
Well, this Timberwolves therapy session presented by our friends at Federated, who are long-term partners with the Timberwolves. So hopefully they can provide a guiding hand for these choppy waters that the Wolves are going through right now. I don't know what the fix is, but they would know better than we would at Federated. They have 100+ years of experience helping businesses through risk management tools and resources. You can find them online at federatedinsurance.com, where it's our business to protect yours. Mackie and Judd.